Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is the SunBelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts Dusty Thibodeaux of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howlraiser, and Shane Mettlen of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the SunBelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. And missing in action is Jeremy Harper of Howlraiser. Shane, I think he's still in Montgomery looking for that ref that called the offside.
Was his face as red as Butch Jones after that call?
That was great watching him just absolutely roid out. I thought that he was going to stroke out on the sideline, and it was fantastic. Your team, though, Shane, not able to really contribute to the bowl wins as well, with James Madison falling to Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl. Your thoughts there quickly before we kind of dive into it more later on.
You know, I mean, it's a tough situation for both JMU and Troy to be going through that transition of changing coaches as they're preparing for the bowl. They got guys in the portal. I mean, everybody goes through that to some degree, but I think losing the coaching staff during the bowl preparations is gonna hurt. Especially when you got to get ready for a team like Air Force, and you know they're running a different kind of style, different offense than most teams see throughout the year. So, not necessarily surprised by the result, but it does. You know, JMU fans are pretty. It kind of sucks for them that they waited so long to get to a bowl game and kind of went through, you know, all the uncertainty of whether that was going to happen, and then they get there and it's not quite the experience I guess maybe they were gunning for all along.
Shifting gears, though, of the great experience, I know that you jumped on board and you were a huge X-League fan. We have the Rookie of the Year joining us. Former ULM receiver Boogie Knight joins us. Rookie of the Year of what team was it, Shane?
Now I can't remember. Boogie's going to have to remind me. I know it had something to do with like soda pop or something like that.
Asahi Challengers.
Yeah, okay.
Asahi Challengers. Yeah. So welcome in there, Boogie. Tell us, how, first of all, did you wind up going to Japan to play football of all things?
Yeah, so getting ready for the NFL, just like everybody's senior, like had high hopes. Like I know my senior year kind of took a little bit of like a left turn, getting injured, missing a few games. So after the draft, not getting drafted, I had like some interest, but it was one of those things, nothing was sticking. So then I kind of shifted my gears to what can I do to go get more film? What can I do? Because I'm not even close to ready to give up on the dream. I know I got what it takes. So I'm like, I'm just going to go keep playing football. The best way to like grow and work on the things I need to do was to play football. So I had my agent working, and X-League just happened to reach out to me. They had a connection with the offensive coordinator of the Challengers, used to be at Western Kentucky with Alonzo Hampton, who was the special teams coordinator at ULM. And so that connection kind of like just ended up working out perfect. And he reached out to Hampton about me. Hampton spoke really highly of me. So then I met with them. I had like 5 or 6 interviews, like almost like a job type interviews with them, and everything went well. And I was just like, I'm going to take a leap of faith and go and do it. And then it ended up, made some goals and checked everything off the list, goals I wanted to reach. So it went good. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Shane, I've never had an interview where they asked me about my 40 time. Have you?
I have not. Wouldn't go well.
Going over there, I mean, obviously different cultural. How's the football though? I mean, is it still pretty Americanized football? Is this kind of JUCO type level of football? Is it D1? Is it really a true professional ranks of football?
Yeah, no, I was a little worried about if the level of competition would be good enough to like help with film, and it surprised me a ton. The competition was really good. They play like the same exact rules as American football. It's not like Canada where there's like twists and turns, like 3 downs, the motions, it's all exactly the same. I'd say the competition is definitely like Division I type level. I would say it's a good professional league. I think outside of like NFL, CFL, and then the new league, the XFL league, it's probably the best in the world. The Japanese players, they're very knowledgeable in football. Like their knowledge level, the way they take it, the film, the way they study and execute, like their knowledge of football is even higher than what I experienced in like the group of 5 level. Like it's their full-time like focus, like very in tune with the level of play, but not only like that, but like they're very smart, very like surprising, and the talent was really good. I know there's guys, American guys that had stints in the NFL, mini camps or training camps or preseason rosters. So almost every American has NFL experience. And then I'd say a lot of like the top Japanese players there could come to America and play like high Division I football. But then there's like some guys that maybe not make that criteria, but I'd say overall it's Division I type vibes.
So what's football culture in Japan? Like, obviously you said the guys who play are so into it and they really know the game. What about, are there a lot of football fans there? Do they follow American football? Do they follow the NFL and stuff over there?
Yeah. So football is huge over there. It's still a growing sport, but like the NFL is like, it's so big there. Like as far as like their jerseys, like the knowledge they have on the players, every Japanese player is aspiring to be the Pat Mahomes or the DK Metcalfs. Like they're all like, they study those type of players on film. And as far as our games go, like it's great crowds, a lot of pretty much sold out crowds. We play in like professional soccer stadiums, so it's big stadiums, and all the fans have like signs and jerseys, and they wait after the game to get the players' autographs and take pictures. So it gives you that same feel as like professional football. Like I'd compare it to like the XFL as far as like popularity. Like it's not the main sport in the country, so they're not everybody's diehard fans, but it's like the people that are fans, they really go all out for it.
Any crossover, any familiar faces you ran into over there, whether it be SunBelt competition or even from your MAC days at Akron?
Not directly like face-to-face people I know, or like, but there's like some mutual things. So like some guys in the league, Americans I play with, like even on my team, like we know somebody back home. Like I know, for instance, there's the DB on our team trained with a DB, Austin Hawley, who used to play at ULM, and then there's guys like that. And my quarterback, we've had connections just here and there. It's like all the Americans there. It's like such a unique experience that we all kind of create that own bond, and you start talking. You get to realize you know more people through them, or you've all met mutual people.
Is there a big culture shock going over there? I can imagine, somebody goes over for a normal job and they're just like kind of working in an office. It's got to be kind of crazy. Going over there to do something as American as play football, is there as much culture shock when you get there?
Yeah, definitely. The first few weeks, the culture shock was real. It's very intimidating, like stepping foot in a new country where the language is so different. Like sometimes in like Spanish speaking or other languages, they use the similar alphabet, or they like you have an idea some of the words are the same. Japan, like it's all symbols, or it's very different, like hard to get around. The money's so different. I was worried about going to grocery stores and all that at first, just because you're so scared of the communication barrier, but it gets easier. And my quarterback, who's been there for like 5 or 6 years, kind of showed me the ropes. And then I just kind of like got more comfortable as we go. And then the one thing about Japan is when you go to like the big cities, like I live in a big city, but there's like Tokyo or Osaka, like some of the biggest cities in the world. And when you go there, you really kind of feel like you're in America, because like English is their second like language. It's like the universal language. So like you go there and it feels like New York City. Like everybody's kind of speaking English, signs are in English, like so it's a little easier in the bigger cities.
Gives me hope that I'll be able to make it there, because I did not fare so well when I went to Central America. That's for sure.
Yeah.
13 hours time difference. How does that play on you? And when do you get to go back there?
Yeah. So time difference is tough. That jet lag was real at first. A little hard to fall asleep. Like I was getting up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and starting my workouts just because I couldn't sleep. But it's almost, I like it because there's only a few hours where you're really on your phone, because the entire part of your day, everybody back home is essentially sleeping. So it just gives me even more time and focus to put into football, watching film, just training. Like it's like almost just feel like in Rocky when he goes to Russia, like that's almost essentially how I think of it. Like I'm in a different country and all I do is paid to just train and perfect my craft and get better. So that's like the way I'm looking at it, and it makes things like better.
I was gonna say, you mentioned your quarterback's been there for 5 years. Is that something you can see yourself doing? I know you want to get back and play it, at the highest level, but is that something you could see yourself doing, is staying there for a while if you enjoy it?
Yeah, so I talk to my family about that pretty frequently. It's one of the things where, to me, it's the second best life that I could live in my head, that I personally think like the NFL is the goal, and I'm going to chase that until I'm done playing football. But if I'm not in the NFL, I truly think that playing in the X League, playing football as a job and getting paid to do so is a dream come true in itself. And every day I just appreciate what I have, and being able to do something that not a lot of people get to do. Not a lot of people get to play even college football, let alone extension of their career playing professional football. So it's something that if I'm not in the NFL, I'm going to play in the X League until the wheels fall off.
Do they get the nickname? Does that translate well to Japanese?
Yeah, they love it. They definitely, to them, like they hear Boogie and they think dancing. Like it's one of those words that kind of like they understand, just because there's a select few of words that kind of translate from English to Japanese that they use similar words. So when they all hear that, they think dancing, and they like to laugh and dance with the name. So it's funny. It translated pretty well.
Selected to represent Team Japan on the All-Stars for the upcoming Dream Bowl against the Ivy League All-Stars. How big is that you get to kind of go against the smart kids, so to say, in the international game?
Yeah, no, it's huge. When the NFL didn't work out and the X League gave me the opportunity, I wrote down a list of goals on a paper, and I read it every day from that day until the season finished. And making that Dream Bowl was one of the top goals on my list. So being able to do so, it meant a lot. And being able to play against Americans again, almost like that. It's like, to me, it's like a revenge tour, like where I get to continue to prove myself and playing against competition that, well, if the NFL is like, well, he's playing in Japan, well, now he's playing the best of the Ivy League Conference and he's still putting up great numbers, or he's doing his thing. So I look at all that as just opportunity and a great experience. It's a great venue. They play in like the Tokyo Dome and sellout crowd, and it's just a cool opportunity. Something I'm excited to be a part of.
Big time difference, but are you able to still kind of catch up at least a little bit on ESPN, the good old Warhawks, and the SunBelt Conference?
Yeah, so the time difference, it's weird, but so like, because we practice on the weekends, so the Warhawks would be playing, and if they play like they usually play night games, especially the first half of the year, so they're playing at, let's say, 7 p.m. at ULM, it's like 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. Sunday morning in Japan. So I'll just wake up a little early before practice and be able to like catch the game. Or sometimes if they're playing like a noon game or a 2 p.m. game, like I kind of just wake up throughout the night, check my phone, or if I'm up, I'll watch it. But I definitely stay connected with ULM, and I watch like all the SunBelt games. Any game I can get on, I'm still trying to watch as much college football as I can, or watching some NFL football. Just the time difference definitely plays a factor and makes it a little tougher, but I manage.
Boogie, I think that's all that we have for you, man. I greatly appreciate it, and looking forward to checking out the stats as you go against the smart kids of the Ivy League game, and we continue to see you in the X League, and hopefully back stateside in the XFL, USFL, whatever the new league is called, and hopefully eventually in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys.
He never got to be in a bowl game. Tragic.
Yeah, that's tough. He's one of those guys who deserved it.
But it didn't really seem like the SunBelt wanted to be in a bowl game this year. 5-7 was absolutely disgustingly horrible, and every other word that we can say. Was there any good that came out of these bowl games that you can think of?
I mean, it ended well. Texas State, I mean, you got to love their performance. They're taking back Texas. They're going to Dallas, and they're beating the team from Houston and buying all the beer. Like, I mean, that'd be the highlight of bowl season, I think, for me. It's just look what Texas State did with their first opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bobcats were definitely one of the brighter parts of the bowl season for the SunBelt Conference. I just did not really think that Coastal Carolina was going to be on the winning side. And quite honestly, I didn't think South Alabama was. I mean, I know we always joke about it and all that, but I just didn't feel that they had all the pieces coming back into that postseason game to really make it a competitive game, whether it was on their home turf or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you just kind of look at the bowl results as a whole, they don't jive with what happened in the regular season. And I think it tells you something about the problem with college football right now too, is that, we're a place where we're doing off-season free agency and coaches taking new jobs before the season's actually over. We wait 3 to 4 weeks before we play these postseason games. Like, obviously there's going to be weird results that don't make any sense, that don't matter with what happened in the regular season. I mean, Troy, JMU, App State, those teams proved themselves in the regular season. App State got their bowl victory. But, I mean, I don't think it takes away necessarily from what Troy and JMU did in the regular season that their coaches bailed on them. And that's just kind of where we are with football postseason right now, is we somehow it still just kind of baffles me that it's the only sport where free agency and stuff begins while the season's still going on.
But if that's the case, and I agree with you, or the spirit of what you're saying, that if Cignetti stays at JMU, I think that's a completely different ball game. I think the preparation up to the game, I think the actual execution is different. But if you're going to hold the coaches hostage, for lack of a better term, to finish out the season, finish out the bowl game, what about the players? Do the players have to stay as well?
Well, I think if you didn't have signing day in early December and you didn't have the portal opening at the start of December, if you waited till January for those things, then the coaches wouldn't feel the need to bail right away, because the players wouldn't be bailing right away. They wouldn't be trying to put their team together at the next place before they were done at the first place. And that to me is like, I don't understand why the people who run college football set up a system where that's what you're doing in December instead of preparing for the last game that's supposed to be a big deal.
But how do you fix that? Because if you make the December signing period only the high school, because by then their state championships are over, it's not really very impactful. How are you getting these guys out of the portal to get them on campus for spring practice when classes start in early January?
Yeah, the spring ball thing is I think the big holdup is everybody wants their guys there for spring ball. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's worth it for the overall health of the sport to not go back to high school signing day. Used to only be in February. Mm-hmm. It's pretty new that we're doing this in December. There used to not be a free agency period for transfers like that. And I want guys to have the freedom to go where they want to go, but just to open the doors for everybody to leave before the season's over doesn't make any sense to me. And I think maybe coaches are going to want those guys in for spring ball. Those guys are going to be at spring ball at their next place, but I don't know. I think you kind of got to sacrifice spring ball a little bit for the overall health of the sport.
Not going to happen. When there's a new coaching staff coming in, they need every snap that they can get in spring ball, summer ball, and everything in between to make sure that offense is alive and kicking. But I don't think that you're going to be able to sacrifice that spring ball.
Maybe spring ball should be in June.
Yeah,
it's technically still spring and early June.
Not in the South, Shane. That's summertime.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for the spring ball aspect of it, but
any team that you felt was maybe a little bit more disappointing than the others in the bowl games that we did have?
I mean, the way ODU finished was quite disappointing. I don't know if anybody was overly disappointing. I mean, for JMU, I think to lose 2 of the last 3, that's pretty disappointing given the way things started and the possibilities that seem to be there. I don't know if the actual game itself was that disappointing. They didn't get blown out. They were relatively competitive against an Air Force team that was really good early in the season when they were healthy. So that was supposed to be a good game, and it was. I don't know if the most disappointing thing, other than just like the start, not getting the wins to start. Hugely disappointing finish for Arkansas State, and it's not necessarily their fault. We're talking about 5-7 being a disappointment. You also got to remember, we're talking about, third and fourth worst teams in the conference got into bowl games. They're not really expected to win against other good teams. And if ODU doesn't completely blow it, and if Arkansas State doesn't get a terrible call, we might be talking about 7-5, which I think you'd celebrate a winning record with 12 teams in a bowl.
I feel like that's a shot directly at me there, Shane, of saying that we can't even get to 5-7. I'd say the game to me that hurt the most was definitely that Louisiana Lafayette game, losing to Jacksonville State, because you already have all the conversation that Liberty and Conference USA are the premier G5 with them getting into the New Year's Six. And then you add the new kids in the block, Jacksonville State getting a win in Louisiana, in the Cajun Dome. Yeah, it might as well be the Cajun Dome, in the Louisiana Superdome for their 7th trip to that New Orleans Bowl. That one to me stings a little bit. I really feel like they kind of came into the league, into our house, and really disgraced it with that win.
Yeah, I think it does. It doesn't sting as much to me as Western Kentucky beating ODU. I think because I felt like Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, and Liberty were legitimately good teams out of Conference USA for the vast majority of the season. I didn't think Conference USA really had much after that. And, Western Kentucky gets the bragging rights for Conference USA in a game that ODU really dominated early and completely fell apart. So that one maybe hurts a little bit more to me, or at least it's less surprising, but it is, as you say, going right to the heart of Sunbelt country to do it. Should have been basically a home game for the Cajuns. That one's pretty tough too. I mean, any of the losses to Conference USA just don't fit the narrative that Sunbelt's trying to build, frankly.
All that depressing talk about football, but we're now at the conference portion of the schedule for men's and women's basketball. James Madison gets to open up their nationally ranked portion of the conference schedule at home against the 2-time defending champion Texas State Bobcats. Does that game take on a little bit more meaning, at least of what you've heard from the coaching staff, or is this just all about being 1-0, as cliche as it is, in Sunbelt Conference action?
I mean, they talk about, just winning the next game all the time, as cliche as it is. I think that's been the focus. They're obviously pretty fired up to start conference play. Texas State beat JMU at home last year. They had a kind of weird stretch where they lost 2 home games to Texas State and App State that they really shouldn't have lost those games at home. So I think they probably remember that one. That should help JMU kind of be prepared. Been off for about a week though. So interesting to see just kind of, how they respond after going home, coming back, getting back into practice the day after Christmas, and kind of trying to get refocused on basketball when you've had all the holiday stuff and, you're not really in your normal routine. You're not going to class or anything. You're the only kids on campus. It's always interesting to see how teams respond to that.
ULM gets the tough trek traveling to App State. They're on a skid right now. I watched them play against Sam Houston, a good team from Conference USA. I know we were discussing that earlier. A good physical game, though, that I think will help them prepare for the Sunbelt Conference. But it's tough to go to App State and play. There's something about Boone and that altitude that definitely gives them the home court advantage. So I like the Mountaineers there as well. Troy, going to Coastal Carolina. I think Scott Cross has his team fired up and ready to go for SunBelt Conference action, especially for this opener at Coastal Carolina. And I also think that Arkansas State is finally going to turn the corner and get the big win at Georgia State to open up their SunBelt Conference action.
Yeah, I'm with you on most of those. I mean, App State's just, they're showing to be a pretty good team. Their fans are showing up for basketball now, so it's going to be a tough environment. Troy, I think, is just a better team than Coastal. I don't think Coastal's not a very good basketball team right now. It's been switching coaches mid-season and everything like that. The Arkansas State Georgia State game, I think, is one of the most interesting ones on this opening slate, because I think just two teams that have shown some promise at times this year. Don't have exceptional records right now, but I think are two teams that can really compete to be in the upper tier of the league. And it's one of those games that maybe down the line we're looking at that one as the difference between getting that double bye or the bye in the Pensacola, as opposed to having to win 4 or 5 straight to make a run.
Does Georgia Southern get a win this week, you think, as they host Southern Miss to tip off the season?
I would be surprised. I think Southern Miss, they got Andre Curbelo now. I mean, there's been some disappointing, I think, results for Southern Miss, but I think Southern Miss is just a way more talented team. I think, you could almost put Austin Crowley with 4 guys from campus from the rec center out there, and I think they'd have a pretty good shot to beat Georgia Southern right now. It's been tough.
Cajuns travel to Marshall. I'd like this Cajuns team, but once again, kind of like that ULM App State, I think Marshall's just a different animal when they're at home. That kind of gives them the edge to open up the season 1-0. Then South Alabama going to Old Dominion. I'm kind of anxious to see this game, to see how does Old Dominion rebound without their coach, and then how are they kind of recuperating from that Diamond Head Classic out in Hawaii as they get ready for the games that really matter, the SunBelt Conference games.
Yeah, I mean, as far as ODU goes, it's one of the teams I've seen in person so far since they played JMU 3 times this year. I think they've got some talent there, just have no size. Trying to figure out ways to make that an advantage, but tough situation with Jeff Jones having a heart attack, having to kind of make the adjustment there. You don't have your head coach. They seem to rally around that a little bit in Hawaii. They got a decent win there. They go 1-2, but that's a tough field. So I think at home, they get a good crowd there at Chartway Arena. I think they've got a good chance to, start out conference play on a solid note at home. The Louisiana Marshall game is another one of those ones that I think is going to be just really interesting. And it's, almost kind of a look at, the different ways to approach the offseason. Louisiana, they did lose Jordan Brown, but otherwise they kind of just chose to ride with the guys they had. They didn't hit the portal real hard. Kind of just decided to, keep continuity in the program going. Marshall's brought in some new guys that had a lot of turnover. They also lost some of their best players. And I think it's taken them a little bit longer to get going this season. Like I said, it's hard to win in Huntington, but I kind of just I went from being skeptical of Louisiana not making any moves in the portal to kind of liking that, because they seem to have just, let their guys develop and let some of those new guys some of those guys who've been around step into newer, bigger roles. And I think they have a pretty good shot to do something in Huntington.
On the women's side, how ironic that the team that we're all anxious to see is Georgia Southern. They are going to travel to Texas State to open the season. I think that's a pretty good matchup, but I think Georgia Southern has shown with their 10-3 non-conference record that they are the team to beat right now on the women's side. Also, Old Dominion travels to South Alabama with their new head coach. South Alabama, they've struggled a little bit in non-conference action, 7-5. But overall, I think that South Alabama can get that win at home. App State against Louisiana Lafayette. I like the Raging Cajuns. They're at home. Arkansas State over Coastal Carolina. And you might not like it, Shane, but this is going to be the real test for ULM as they host James Madison. I'm buying in because of what I've seen early on the Warhawk women's side. They might have one of the better teams and will definitely have the better team on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think you talk about, Georgia Southern maybe being the team to beat, but I think the margin is kind of razor thin, top 5 or 6 teams. And we saw it last year. The difference between being the 5 seed in the tournament and the 1 seed of the tournament, I think, came down to like the final day. I think it's going to be similar this year because, a lot of the teams you mentioned are looking pretty good. ULM turning around early. I think their only losses are to Power 5 teams, correct? So far?
That is correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think JMU's off to a good start, but those road games, especially when you're going all the way from Virginia to Louisiana, they've been known to trip some people up. So definitely be interested to see how Sean O'Regan's team kind of reacts to not playing well at Maryland. But that was coming off a really good performance at Maine. So they've been a little bit up and down. It'll be interesting to see which JMU team kind of shows up for that one.
Marshall at Southern Miss, and then the delayed Georgia State at Troy. I think that's the game to circle and to definitely tune into on Sunday. Game delayed due to the passing of Keaja Williams. I think I said her name right. I hope I did. The Montgomery, Alabama native passed away. No details really released on what happened there, but it did push the game to Sunday as the team gets ready to go to her funeral there on the Saturday, traditional game day. I think either Troy kind of uses this as a rallying cry to kind of win one for the Gipper, so to say, or they're still just the emotional wreck, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. It's going to be an L. And I think it's the extremes either side of that. Would love to see Chanda actually get the win for her team and her fallen player. And then Marshall at Southern Miss. Southern Miss, of course, winning the women's side last year. With all the tiebreakers and everything that it came down to for the postseason. I got to think, though, that Southern Miss still got it going on to move to 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a solid start for Marshall and her new coaching staff and everything, but I think, Southern Miss is just, probably in a better spot program-wise right now. That they're building off of a solid season last year. I think they're probably going to be favored in that one, but like I said, I mean, honestly, the opening weekend for the women might be as interesting or more interesting than men's, just because I think the league is like so balanced right now that these games are going to really matter come March.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think the top 4. I mean, Georgia Southern standing out a little bit more at the 10-2 mark, but everyone else 2-3 losses. It's all a mix. Even the worst team, Troy at 3-7, I still would never bet against Chanda and would take her with even an 0-10 team coming into SunBelt Conference action.
Yeah, and they always play a tough schedule. You look at the teams they've lost to. You're Iowa State, Memphis, Georgia. They always play that kind of schedule. They're Tennessee. So their non-conference record usually isn't necessarily an indication of what they're going to do in league. I think the Sun Belt's getting tougher for Troy to dominate it like they used to, but I'm not counting them out just because their record isn't great right now.
Shifting gears back to football for a minute there, Shane. All the hype was about the good old Pop-Tart Bowl. Did you get a chance to watch it, and what were your thoughts on the edible trophy?
I didn't watch any of the game, but I had clips of the trophy coming up on my phone like constantly, and the mascot, everything else. It was perfect. This is what bowl season's supposed to be. Like having a lot of fun in a game against, good teams. This game doesn't really mean a ton, but it's entertaining teams playing against each other, having fun, having the mascot. If you're going to make this like sponsorship type of deal, you and I are both old enough to remember where not every bowl game had a sponsor and it was like a huge deal. If you're going to go that route, then go all out with it and like make Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts getting their money's worth for this advertisement here. I want to see this kind of thing in every bowl game. I want to see a SunBelt get ties in with some good edible trophies and mascots and everything else. I don't know, maybe we need like an avocado running around or like a big bowl of guacamole or whatever at the Cure Bowl next year. But I want to see more and more of that.
Out of those bowl mascots, though, who's your favorite between what's his name, Sir Cheez-It, the Idaho Potato, Tubby from the Duke Mayo, or the Pop-Tart?
It's the Pop-Tart right now. I mean, because I like Pop-Tarts. The other guys are okay. I hate mayonnaise, so like the whole Duke's Mayo Bowl like thing just like weirds me out. I would honestly, if I was coaching in that game, I might be tempted to throw it because I would like just be completely grossed out by that whole situation.
I'm in the same boat, but it's definitely a three-way tie. I could really care less about the Cheez-It guy. He kind of creeps me out, but I love the Idaho Potato. I love Tubby, the Duke Mayo, and then of course this new Pop-Tart guy. He's fantastic and has definitely grown on me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling though that like almost every bowl, it's got to be food sponsorships from now on. Like, no more bad boy mowers or weed eaters or, I mean, not to knock the armed forces, but I mean, if you're gonna have an armed forces bowl, it probably also needs to be like, Cold Stone Creamery or something too, like just to get something edible in there because it's that's the way every bowl's got to be from now on, I think.
I did love it on the Sickos Committee podcast. They talked about they only shop at places that sponsor bowls. So anytime they're going to buy military armaments, they only go to Radiance Technologies or Lockheed Martin. So there's the extreme of bowl-isms, I guess you could say, as well.
I wonder about sponsorships in general, just like what actually like gets a good return on investment. Because like you said, like, who's actually making their purchases for, military industrial complex stuff that is swayed by the bowl sponsorship,
I remember going to an Independence Bowl as a fan when it was sponsored by Duck Commander that year. And I just shook my head when every first down was sponsored by Willie's Barbecue Salsa.
Yeah.
I couldn't cope with it.
There's a lot of them that I wonder, like, just how much it like actually like helps the company that they're putting all this money into it. Like, I noticed the other day, like, I knew that the arena in Denver was called Ball Arena for some reason, and then I saw some highlights and I see their logo on the court, and it's like, oh, like ball, like the jars, like for like pickling,
for canning.
Yeah,
yes.
Like that's what it is. Like, so like there's enough people like buying those, and there's enough competition that like having your name on the floor for the Denver Nuggets like actually pays off for you. I can hardly believe that, but to each their own.
Just remember there was an Amway Stadium as well.
Yeah. Well,
and Avocare was also another sponsor of the Independence Bowl.
Yeah.
So, for what that's worth. Short and sweet. Unless you have anything else there, Shane.
No. I think we covered it all.
We ended, as always, with a plug promo parting shot. Give it to us there, Shane.
I'll just plug today. You can keep reading as we transition from football to basketball season. Keep reading about the SunBelt on dnronline.com/sports. My stuff there. Katie Harper, our new sports writer. Maybe we should have her on sometime. Talk some JMU stuff since we used to get Noah Fleischman every once in a while. Katie's the new Noah. So you can read both me and her. dnronline.com/sports.
That was short, sweet, and easy.
Yeah.
Just doing a simple plug. remember, go to funbeltpodcast.com where you can click on the shop button. You can get the Put Irk in the Hall t-shirts as well as our logoed t-shirts like this one right here, as well as several other t-shirts that we have coming out. We probably need to come up with some new designs there, Shane. So also, if any listener has any idea, feel free to drop us a DM on our X platform at Funbelt PC. So for the rest of the game, Funbelt Podcast, we'll be back and do it again next week.